Hello, TCI family and Jonathan's Refuge and everybody out there from around the globe. We love you and we love hearing from you and all your stories and your prayers and things of that nature. Sorry, I'm looking down at my little therapy aide here who's coming over to say hi. Anyways, um, today let's discuss a couple things. Forgive me if my eyes are blinking a lot or if I'm closing them a little. I had some eye things done today at the doctor's, and so everything's kind of blurry. It looks like a big whiteout and bright. Everything's bright and blurry. So I want to discuss something. We talked last week about love and what it means to TCI. Okay. And one of the things that I wanted to discuss this week is how can you be kind and still win? And I say that because people have asked me this week that question. How can I be a kind person and still win? And that's a good question. How do you be kind? There's many instances where I've told stories about me, and you're like, that was not kind, Bishop, and that's true. And a huge portion of these stories that you've heard, there definitely were needed at that. Uh, I'll mention a friend of mine. He's a very private person. He's part of our organization, and I so I won't say his name, but I know he's watching tonight. He We're gonna call him Mr. Race Car Driver because he loves to go to the race cars and watch them. And so Mr. Race Car Driver was coming out with a couple other people, only a few people out of the stadium one time, and an incident happened, and one group of two men were saying a guy said something to another guy and called him a bad name and a very wrong thing to call someone. And it started escalating, and it looked like it was about to be a 2-on-1 fight. And this person spoke up and said some things. And some might say, well, isn't that antagonizing? And that getting up in someone's face? No, he was doing the right thing. Sometimes the right thing, the tough thing, sometimes even the hard thing is to knock a guy out when he's about to hit a woman, as an example. I've done that many times in my life, unfortunately. Was it the violent act? Absolutely. Was it necessary to save those ladies? Absolutely. Matter of fact, I've never been arrested, prosecuted on any of those kind of charges in my life. So it's interesting what we consider a great deed. I remember I got the key to a city in Goddard, Kansas. A man beat his wife senseless, and I pulled up in the middle of the night because I was coming back from a midnight shift and saw a man just beating a woman up. And I went over, and me and two friends, we ended up breaking a lot of bones in this guy's body. And he just kept coming because he was high on drugs. And long story short of it is they actually awarded us keys to the city for beating the guy senseless because this man had beat a woman senseless. Was it a good act? Looking back on it, I think we probably went way too far. But then that night, he also killed the sheriff himself, or I'm sorry, the chief of police himself. So now looking back with the full story, it's kind of like, no, that guy was really a bad guy. So I don't feel bad about breaking a lot of his bones. Again, it's not a peaceful solution, but there are times where peace and I don't want to use the word violence, but physical confrontation arises. Let's look at Martin Luther King, the great man. Was he flawed? Absolutely. Did he have multiple affairs? Nobody can even argue that. It's on tape. Um, but did Martin Luther do some amazing things and change the world? Yes, he did. And one of the things that I look at a man like Martin Luther King, when you make judgment calls, he was walking to go march in Selma, down in Selma. And they made a movie called Selma. Watch it sometime. They were told this is the deep, deep South. You come to this town of Selma, we're going to go ahead and lynch you. So they knew beyond a shadow of a doubt there was going to be violence, very, very bad violence against them if they came to do their peace protests with white and blacks holding hands, marching together. And so they made the decision to do a peace march that they knew would end violent and possible deaths, if not for sure arrests, beatings, all kinds of other things, and worst, death. So would you guys sign up for that? Would you ever put your name on the line and go out on that bus with people like that are trying to change the world? That's a good question. So there's peaceful actions and then there's violent actions, and all can be used to accomplish a good cause. But I guess I'm trying to get to a deeper spot also. Sales. People always ask me about success because I was so successful at everything I've ever done, to be honest with you. I stayed in the lane that I knew, right? And that's why I was successful. I didn't try to go off and do things I'm not good at. I'm not an engineer, so I didn't try to pretend to be an engineer. And so one of the things that I learned at a young age of 6, when I started my studies, and most people don't do things of this nature until they're in college, I was starting at 6 with my father taking me to the greatest conferences and the greatest teachers and the greatest politicians and business leaders and the tycoons and the wheelers and the dealers at 6 years old. And I learned some things. A man that has a lot of knowledge speaks even less. I know what you're thinking. No way, dude, because you're really knowledgeable and you talk a lot. Yes, there is a time and a place for everything. There's a time to speak and there's a time to not speak. That's in the book of Ecclesiastics by King Solomon. There's a time for death and there's a time for life. There's a time for war. There's a time for peace. There's a time for everything. And what's interesting is, depending on the situation, when I talk to my mentors, I don't speak at all. I shut my mouth. I want to hear what they have to say. I want to listen to them. I want to glean. I want to learn from them. Funny part is they want to hear me. So they ask me specific questions. And in my answers to their questions, I find the answers to my questions that I haven't even asked yet. So without even knowing, I don't even have to ask the question. They've trained me so I know that when they ask me a question, I'm going to answer it. In my answer is the answer to my question that I'm about to ask. So in the silence, you can glean more. In sales, we used to call it, when you brought a guy over, a closer to your table to close your deal, the finance manager, right? The guy that makes the deals. When you bring your closer over, if you didn't have the client to puke all over the table by that point, then you didn't do your job. And what that means is you get them to puke everything out. Why won't you buy this? Oh, it's too much money. Oh, I've never used it. They get every excuse. They puke it out. I'm broke. I'm building a house. I've got 3 children, 16 grandchildren, and 45 great-grandchildren. However that works out. They puke it all. When there's nothing left, it's all on the table, you're done. You're not walking away from this guy. I will just sort through it piece by piece, and I will show you without telling you, and you will see that that is no longer an excuse, that is no longer an excuse. And when it's all done, the table's been cleaned up, and the deal has been done, and they're signing paperwork. So if you want to be successful, first thing you need to do is be kind. Why kind? Being kind means sometimes you have to be quiet and listen to others. And here's the interesting fact. You like to talk about you more than any other person on earth. Let me tell you a little secret. I like to talk about me more than anyone else in the world. Shh, don't tell people. I don't want this to get out. It's human nature, folks. We speak about ourselves more than anyone else on earth. Now, does that mean that's all I want to talk about? Of course not. I've got grandchildren. I love talking about my grandchildren. I tell everybody about my grandchildren. I've got a 53-year-old motorcycle. I just heard a motorcycle riding down the street. Sounds like a Harley Sportster. And all of a sudden, it just makes me think of, man, I got a 53-year-old vintage, beautiful motorcycle. A 1970 Triumph Trophy. And I love to talk about that. And I'm going in about a week and a half. I'm heading to climb another volcano, Mount Baker. Never been there, no guides. I do this like the old pioneers do. They just figure it out themselves. I love that. I could talk about that for hours. But see, at the end of the day, you actually talk more about yourself than anyone else. And I know you don't believe this because a lot of the people that come to me are looking for advice. So I'm talking to them, or I have a business relationship where I need to speak to them, or I'm educating them, or I'm answering questions to help sounding boards back and forth with partners and things of that nature. So we're communicating. But the truth is, if I need to figure out how to make my wife and my relationship work better, here's all I need to do. shut up and just listen. Somewhere in all of that talk, and I say all of that, that's not an insult, by the way, to my wife. That is all of the talk. Whatever it is, they, your spouse, your partner, your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your boss, if you will listen to everything, and a lot of time we talk 80% more than we should, but somewhere in there is the 20% that's actually the nuggets. And if you listen, you'll find how to sell that person. Now, you say how to sell them. Yes, how to sell your spouse. You sold your girlfriend. When I met my wife, I sold my wife and she sold me. We both sold each other on our finest qualities, just like you guys did. My good friend, him and his husband, they're both two of the most adorable men I've ever met. And they both are the worst when it comes to maintaining their bathroom. Like, and I mean horrifying. Neither one of them said anything to the other at all while they were dating. They were like, this is so bad. I mean, they're going to leave me. I better get them to fall in love with me. And the funny thing is they both have the same bad habit, which is actually probably the only way that relationship works. But I know they're watching also. Here's the point I'm trying to make. You want to close your relationship with someone to be a better relationship? How do you close that deal? Listen to them. Quiet down. Dale Carnegie wrote a great book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. You should go and take and buy that book if you don't have it. You should listen to it. I do it on an annual basis. Every year, it's a book that I read every single year of my life, and it's one of the reasons why I'm successful at what I do. And it's because I know how to win a friend over. And you say, but that doesn't sound genuine. Actually, it's not. Because again, by nature, humans want to do nothing but talk about themselves. And so the majority of people just want to talk about what they want to talk. And when I say about themselves, it's not necessarily just about themselves. It's about whatever it is that I want to talk about. I want to talk about mountains. I want to talk about my grandkids. I want to talk about this. It's all about me still. You follow me? So I'm talking about my grandkids and my mountaineering and my church and my businesses and my nonprofits and my billionaire buddy and how he's mentoring me in something. And I'm talking and I'm talking and I'm talking. But it's all about this guy. This person right here, this spiritual being who is flawed like you. And you have to take a break and say, what about you, my friend? And then if you get them to talk the whole time, they'll think you're the greatest friend on earth. I remember hearing a story about three men at a restaurant. All three were having dinner together. And the newest guy in the mix, he only knew one of the guys. So when he sits down at the table and they're ordering their steaks, he makes common, basic conversation by saying, so what do you do for fun? And for the next hour and a half, he never got a word in. That guy, for an hour and a half, talked about something to do with botany. And that's about all he said he remembered. But it was literally like an hour and a half about botany. He had no clue what botany was. He never even heard the word before that. Okay. He knew steak. He knew good cigars, and he was a fine businessman, but he never understood anything about botany. And he's just like, what am I? An hour and a half. Never spoke a word other than that, right? At the end of it, the friend talking turns to the other friend that knew each other and introduced them both and said, your friend is amazing and so knowledgeable about botany. And he's looking like, I am? I didn't even say anything. But by just listening to that person, they think you care. Now, you should authentically care. But the truth is, those that are faking it, you don't get as much out of life and success. But those that are authentically kind and they're sincerely listening to the person as they talk, and they ask more questions about them. And if you can flip it so that you speak to your friend about 20% of the time and listen to them about 80% of the time, you will be the most invited person to every event in your life. You will be the center of attention because they all want to hear you ask them questions about them and get them to talk. And that makes you Mr. Guy that everyone wants to be around, or Mr. Gal that everyone wants to be around. And so it's interesting because then you become thick with knowledge over years of experience. And then you go into a phase of starting to teach. In the beginning, it's just you learning it. And then you go through the curve of actually mastering it, using it, your talent. And then there comes a point where you start to teach it. I know they always say if you can't sell If you can't write, you teach, right? So those that can't write or can't act, they teach. So if you can't act, go teach acting. If you can't write a novel but you love novels, go write, the novels and be the guy that produces them or does marketing for them. If you can't become a hunter, go work at an outlet store that sells hunting stuff. You know what I mean? And it's kind of sad in some respects, but if you're authentic, when you're truly authentic and you're passionate about listening to people, that's when you change and everything about you changes. And then what'll happen is people then start to talk more to you. And when they do talk to you, they open up. When people call me, it's usually with the darkest, deepest secrets of their lives. It's usually when they've messed up, had an affair, got drunk, got high, uh, embezzled money, messed up with the wrong guy in the mob, is trying to leave the cartel, major things. They're not usually like, hey, how you doing? Just thought I'd call you on Sunday. No, that's not how it works. It's usually crazy. And what's interesting is in calming and quieting, I help you, our parishioners, our family, our spiritual conscious group, to focus on being kind and listen to others. Last week we spoke on love. This week we're speaking on kindness. And kindness, you can still win. There's a saying about good guys don't finish first, they always finish last. And there's actually some serious truth to that. So I'm not going to say that's not true, because that actually can be very true. But what I think what the moral of the story that we need to learn from it is, you can be kind and still win. And win doesn't mean like you win something up on someone, but you win by being the guy everyone wants to be around. My work ethic is so strong and so powerful. It has made an impact from the day I started my first job when I was only 9 years old to going on to 10 in Texas. And I'm not going to tell you about it, but from that job to the day that we are currently at, I've never met a person that can outwork me, that outgoes past me. I work longer, harder, stronger, further. I duplicate, I produce, I outproduce, I continue to produce. I don't know how to not do it. And so I'm just go, 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 go. And my poor wife, that poor angel, she's like, can you stop? And we're on road trips. I got one phone here. Oh, baby, look at this over here. Driving with the knee, pointing at about a mountain, talking about a business, and with someone in the back who's taking notes about a book idea, all at the same time. And that poor lady's just like, can I get you for like 2 days and just the whole world be shut down? And I'm grateful for her to help do that. So my work ethic has made me a man that everybody around me would love to work for or work with, because they know I'm going places. Now, that is not something that just happened overnight because I was a jerk. It happened because I was kind and I listened to other people. I learned what people wanted, and then I gave them what they wanted. And in doing that, I got everything I've wanted. You see, if you want to get something in life, you have to help others get what they want. I spent my first half of my life helping my mentors get everything they wanted in their life, and they soared like that. And I, again, holding on to the coattails, you soar up too. And then all of a sudden, I'm starting to lose a lot of those mentors, and they're starting to fade away and die and ups like that. And I see myself now, this transition in my life, and I got these knuckleheads, and they're doing the exact same thing I did. If you want to go ahead and get what you want out of life, give what everyone else around you needs for their life, and you'll get everything you want. And it's about being kind and authentic. People can tell when you're full of it. People can see right through you. I can see right through the person that's, I'm a great man. I'm going to do this. I'm going to hustle. I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to build this church and do. Yeah, that's all great. Those are words. What do your actions say? Because actions are the only thing that matters. You know, they say that saying about knowledge is power. That's a lie. Let me explain this to you. Knowledge is not power. I had the chance to join an organization when I was very young, when they found out that I had a high IQ. And there's this organization, I'm not going to promote it, but you can go to this group and you get this little pin that you get to wear that says you're one of the smartest people on earth. It doesn't say that, but it's the symbol of this organization. And so now you get to say you're one of the smartest people on earth. And I was in there, and I was just a youngster, and I asked a simple question to every person. I asked about their bank account. Now you're thinking, why would you ask about the bank account? Well, these are the smartest people on earth. They have the most knowledge on earth. I want to know how that helps financially, because I'm learning from some of the greatest businessmen on earth, and I don't want to ever have to be poor, because I was poorer than dirt as a kid. We lived in the woods for an entire year with nothing. So I prefer having things and not being with nothing. Okay. And so I wanted to know what the brainiacs had. And they were either broke, they were all making six figures or more, and yet they were broke. And this is back in the 80s. These guys were living in mansions, driving Ferraris, but they were broke. When I asked to talk about their P&L report, their personal P&L report, and I got the information from them, and they're very open in that respect in this group, because they want to be open to you, as they're going to ask questions to you, and they did. Here's the funny thing. I realized that no matter how much knowledge you have, unless you take action, you get zero results. That's why when you go to a seminar, the funny thing is, the people that go to the seminar and paid it and went there, those people, like 90+% of them, do absolutely nothing with it. They just went, told people rah, 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 and that was it. Only 10% of them are even going to attempt to do it. And then out of that, you're talking like less than 1% that actually do anything. So why do people do that? They take action or they don't. It's either or. I'm mentoring a very dear friend of mine on weight loss, and I'm doing it with him. And he's shredding and he's shrinking and he's looking so healthy and so good. And I'm sitting there going, oh man, dude, you are there. Okay. You are there, buddy. Look at you. Had he not taken action, it wouldn't have happened. You can have all the knowledge you want, folks, but without taking steps and action, it's just a bunch of gibbery in your head. But when you start to apply the kindness concept of trying to be authentic and kind and loving to people, even if you disagree with them, try it with a Republican. If you're a Democrat, I want you to go to a Republican and be kind to them this week. And if you're a Republican, I want you to find the most liberal Democrat, and I want you to be kind to them. I want you to try to be kind to the opposite party. If you're a racist, find the race you can't stand for whatever reason you think it's a bad race. I want you to be kind to someone. I want you to stretch yourself, to show yourself you can change. The picture you see back there, that's of me in prison, taken by a man who drew that, Mujah, who's getting out in the next year or so, roughly. And let me tell you something. This man was a violent man who changed himself to being a kind man. So last week was about love. This is about being kind, but being kind doesn't mean you can't win. You can still accomplish all your goals by being kind. You can still get your exercise in. You can still lose weight. You can still do everything. You can still be kind to your wife, your business partners, your family, your friends, your neighbor, the kid who always steps on your yard that drives you nuts, which if I find out where he lives, I'll tell. No, I'm kidding. But that kid, you be kind to him. Show him kindness, and it'll drive them nuts. And then people will see that in you, and they're the people you're going to get hired by. They're going to go, I'll hire that kid. Did you see that? He killed that guy by kindness. That's brilliant. He didn't have to throw the punch. This is a guy we want on our staff. And there's people that take notice of that. And the more you kill with kindness, the more you use kindness to hear what others are trying to truly tell you, the more you will get what you want. Win, win, win. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. I love you guys. I know I went about 3 minutes over, but I think we need to focus a little more on being kind. And I'm going to start by going out in my office and making a phone call to a person that I was not so kind to last week. And I just had that thought come into my mind. And I thought, right now I'm speaking about kindness. I need to walk the talk. So I'm going to go make my phone call right now and say some kind words to a person that I wasn't so kind to, because I like to live what I preach. God bless you guys. Remember, as you're out there this week, let's coexist, right? But let's coexist kindly.